the doctor's office, or an arranged virtual meeting with that big client.
Buy airtime ahead of time with scheduled airtime service on MTN Momo. You can schedule your airtime purchase of any amount daily, weekly, or monthly by dialing *170# option 3 and follow the process. Or simply dial *170*311# for a superb airtime purchase experience. You enjoy 100% bonus airtime anytime you recharge yourself with MTN Momo. Keep on talking with that 100% feeling. So, what are we doing today?
MTN.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. The news is live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra and Kumasi. We are on Love 99.5 FM. A number of affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions. We are on Gangai FM in Jirapa, ATL FM in Cape Coast, Radio Max in Takrady, and Pad FM in Damongo. We are live on Twitter Spaces. We are on Facebook. We are on myjoyonline.com interactive app. The Midday News is sponsored by Petrosol. Your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol is always a delightful experience. We are also brought to you by Duraplus Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplus goes, water flows. This afternoon, as government officials continue to work around the clock to secure an IMF Support Program, experts are sounding the alarm bells of dire times for Ghana's economy should this drag any longer.
The deal delays and the first tranche of the funding is not released. Look, the 2023 budget numbers don't make sense anymore.
It's already killing some of the businesses, and we are not careful. What is going to happen is it is going to get worse.
The World Bank shares this concern as it calls for a faster and more inclusive debt resolution talks to enable Ghana receive support to contain the situation. Meanwhile, inflation drops to 45% for the month of March.
This indicates a 7.8 percentage point drop relative to the rate that was recorded in the month of February 2023.
Also this afternoon, former President John Mahama renews attack on government for refusing to accept responsibility for the current state of the economy as he charges voters in the Eastern region to ditch the MPP.
COVID-19 and Ukraine war and amana abasa kakra.
We have details as he mocks campaign statement of President Akufo-Addo and Vice President Bawumia.
Are suffering, drivers are suffering, and doctors are suffering, and workers are suffering. Ghana haya mobododo. Yet again, so.
We have details and also governing NPP petitions police service demanding arrest and prosecution of the former President Mahama and General Secretary, Chairman actually, for treasonable comment. Also, Ghana Grid Company clears illegal structures obstructing power transmission lines in the Ashanti region as ECG signs a power purchase agreement with AXA to stabilize and enhance power reliability in the middle belt of Ghana.
Don't construct structures near high tension cables and things, because they can have an effect on the whole public good that we are enjoying.
We have details and also in sports.
Benefits await Ghana as the country hosts the rest of Africa in the Zone 3 Handball Championship.
And why are men or more men committing suicide in Ghana?
When a man is facing crisis, it's assumed by the community that you don't need to cry. We don't really create an outlet that will let the emotions get an exit. And when there's a built-up tension in you, these are the things that contribute to a lot of suicide ideations.
Details of statistics which is revealing over 60% of all reported suicide cases in Ghana are committed by men. That and more here on the Midday News. I am Emefa Apau. This is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Please stay for details. Many thanks for staying with us this afternoon. The World Bank says there is a need for a faster and more inclusive debt restructuring talks on the international front to enable Ghana to assess an IMF program to contain the current economic situation. Well, this is contained in the World Bank's April 2023 Africa Pulse report, which also calls for all creditors to commit to negotiating at the same level with all other nations to enable debt-distressed countries like Ghana shore up stability stability for growth. A government delegation is currently in Washington, D.C., participating in the World Bank IMF spring meetings while hoping to advance talks towards securing a $3 billion support program. Well, some economists are already concerned about how long the economy can withstand what they believe has been the delay in assessing the program. Risk analyst Dr. Thiwe Champong is one of them.
If the deal delays and the first tranche of the funding is not released, basically, look, the 2023 budget numbers don't make sense anymore. So we'd have to go back to Parliament and represent a new, estimate. So the finance minister wouldn't have to wait until the mid-year budget in July. I suspect that he will have to go back to Parliament between now and July, possibly sometime, towards the end of the month with some revised budget numbers, but especially on the expenditure side, some deeper cuts on expenditure to compensate for the loss of revenue.
You are the economist and risk analyst, Dr. Thiwe Champong. My colleague Joseph Akable joins me in the studio with details from the World Bank Africa's Pulse report. Joseph, first, what does it say about debt restructuring?
So that part of the report reads, accelerating debt reduction and restructuring is critical to show up stability for growth. The international community needs permanent, comprehensive and credible mechanism to address sovereign debt crisis when they occur. The G20 Common Framework for Debt Treatment is the closest framework for debt resolution. International financial institutions support this framework but would like the process to be faster, more inclusive and cover all creditors. So far, 4 countries in the region are seeking debt restructuring via the common framework, namely Chad, Ethiopia, Zambia and more recently Ghana. Chad is the only country that has negotiated an agreement with its creditors and this initiative, albeit without an actual debt reduction.
So how about Ghana's IMF talks?
It reads the deficit in Ghana will remain elevated throughout 2023 to 2025 with a large deficit compounded by severe financing constraints resulting from a limited ability to issue long-term domestic debt and a lack of access to international capital markets. Successful agreement on an implementation of an International Monetary Fund supported program would help to contain the deficit and provide the necessary financing, including via the ongoing debt restructuring negotiations.
Well, we can hear from economist and tax analyst Eric Kampon Sabwating, who says failure to secure the deal by the end of month could spell doom.
In fact, we should have taken the decision to go to the IMF in 2022, but I think that we felt we would be able to manage things and turn things around. And so, unfortunately, we have had to come to this point because if we do not get the bailout by probably the end of this month, it is going to have an effect on the growth and development of Ghana. Businesses are, everybody is complaining. And it is because of the fact that even right from the beginning of the year, we introduced an additional 2.5% for the VAT, which is already killing some of the businesses. And we are not careful. What is going to happen is that it is going to get worse.
Let me take you live to Washington, D.C. now to join news editor George Riafe. We're told that government is making some significant progress over the engagement. Well, George, give us updates on what we're learning.
So, MFO, you're right on that. There was some engagement with some of these multinational institutions, JICA, World Bank, and other institutions as well. And what we've picked up is that they are making some significant progress. Again, we understand that these multilateral institutions have pledged their commitment to assist Ghana to come out of this current challenge that is going through. So, again, you get the indication that they appreciate what we're going through and they believe that all hands should come on deck to try and help Ghana come out of this situation. Another news that MFA might be interesting for a lot of people who are following that discussion is the Paris Club decision to set up this partial creditor committee to kickstart engagement with Ghana on its debt. Now, what this means is that it is the first step in the process of a possible debt restructuring or debt cancellation. Now, MFA, this is partial because China is not part of this partial club, even though it was part of the meeting, the virtual meeting that took place yesterday with government officials. China's concern was that they still have issues with how the debt owed Ghana should be classified, because some of them can be classified as private debts owed maybe the China Exim Bank, and they still want some further engagement to see how things will be done. But the principle was that they could come back again and see whether they could join the Paris Club, and that might also impact the effect to Ghana going to the board, because the whole argument from the IMF is that what you need to do is to just secure financing commitment from these creditors, and then you can present that to the board.
Okay, well, that's my colleague George Wiafe there monitoring events for us in Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, the Bank of Ghana is defending its support for government budget. Here's Director of Research for the bank, Dr. Philip Abredu.
And from the central bank's point of view, we realized we needed an economy to protect. So there were choices that had to be made. Should we allow the economy to collapse, or we should stick strictly to issues of fiscal dominance, and then who picks up the pieces after the economy has collapsed? But that financing that we did in 2022 went mainly to deal with investors, both domestic investors whose bonds had matured, and government needed to pay these bonds, and for which government had no resources. We had to step in as the lender of last resort and allow the domestic investors to get their returns. All the amount, 100% of that amount, was due to domestic bonds that had matured, for which we had to step in to save these domestic investors. And that is where the fiscal dominance issue came in. So yes, it came in, but we did that to save domestic investors.
Well, so that's but there's some good news as well, and the rate of inflation for March 2023 has dropped to 40.0% from a previous 52.8%. Government statistician Professor Samuel Kobnenim says this is due to drop in food inflation.
Rate of inflation for the month of March 2023 stood at 45.0% for March 2023. This indicates a 7.8 percentage point drop relative to the rate that was recorded in the month of February 2023. In February 2023, we recorded a rate of 52.8, and in January 2023, 53.6. So we are seeing a sharper decline in the rate of inflation between February 2023 and March 2023, with a 7.8 percentage point drop between these two time periods. Food inflation saw a much sharper drop, as it recorded 59.1% for the month of February 2023, indicating an 8.3 percentage point difference from a food inflation perspective and a 7.3 percentage point difference from a non-food perspective. So the slow rate of inflation that we are seeing is largely driven by the sharper drop from a food perspective relative to a non-food perspective.
Well, away from economy now, let's turn our attention to politics. And this afternoon, the governing New Patriotic Party has just petitioned the Ghana Police Service to prosecute and arrest the former President John Dramani Mahama and the current chairman of the party, Johnson Asiedu Nketia. My colleague, Kwiku Asante, joins me in studio with details of that petition that we have a hold of. Walk us through it.
So this is very lengthy. It is under the hand of the national organizer of the party, Henry Nanabuache. He says that I write to formally petition the CID to arrest, investigate and prosecute His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and Johnson Asiedu Nketia, the national chairman of the opposition NDC, for treasonable and offensive conduct conducive to the breaches of the peace, contrary to sections 180 and 207 of the Criminal and Other Offences Act 29. He details the particulars. In regards to former President Mahama, he says that without regard to his stature as a statesman, he proudly touted across various platforms the revolutionary route of the NDC and their unparalleled capacity when it comes to unleashing violence for political gain. Further to this,
are his comments to the effect that the NDC's approach to the elections of 2024 shall be one of do or die and boot for boot. He said that John Mahama got the opportunity to retract. He did not. He actually defended this statement. When it comes to Johnson Nkotia, he says he has repeatedly threatened fire and brimstone to ensure the victory of the NDC in the 2024 general election. He has disclosed that the election shall be bloody and that his party was willing and ready to sacrifice lives to ensure their victory in 2024. The crux of this is that this is not free speech and that this comments that are alleged to have been made by the NDC national chairman and the former president are treasonable, according to Henry Nanabuache, who signed this letter addressed to the Director General of the CID.
And this is just hours after the NDC also petitioned the police CID for the arrest.
Yes, only yesterday, Abraham Amaliba led some members of the NDC Legal Directorate to petition the CID and the IGP to arrest and prosecute Brian Achampon for some comments he made over the Easter weekend that the NPP will not hand over power to the NDC in 2024. The NDC also regards those comments as treasonable and that they are conducive to the breach of peace.
Okay, thank you very much, Ekwikwa Asante. Well, the former president, John Dramani Mahama, is also renewing his attack on government's management of the economy, slamming the Akufo-Addo-led administration for refusing to accept responsibility for the current economic situation. He's been speaking during his tour of the Eastern region.
Amrena yakase o me de me say ni ye wo me to sa amanyokoi ye wo to sa amanyokoi enso emwa empunto ma bibia emma.
The times when we used to be dogmatic followers of political parties are long gone. You are born into the political party, but you don't get any development. Once they get your vote, then they neglect you until the next election. That is why President Kufuor said, look at your living standards and vote wisely.
And then so the bobo bibia and koso. Na ye ya ne say anka mo amudi o mine kan.
What is even painful is that those in charge are failing to accept responsibility. Instead of acknowledging that things are not as they thought, when you open your radio sets, all you will hear is government officials blaming COVID-19 and the war in Ukraine.
He's also been mocking certain political statements made by President Akufo-Addo and Vice President Bawumia during the 2016 campaign.
And social yafamu Echo MC Watrini Ghana for SA NDC for Mumbeje Mobo.
The way we have struggled in the last 7 years under this government, the Ghanaian people are now saying the NDC must come for its throne. We have been vindicated. They are saying we said it, but they did not listen. I would not say Ghana was heaven in 2016, but we were much more comfortable.
Are suffering, and children are suffering, and all Ghanaians are.
Do you remember all this? In today's Ghana, who is not suffering? The Ghanaian people are now miserable. They used to say there was so much hunger in Ghana, but the Ghanaian people are now more hungry. So hungry.
Let's head to the Eastern region for day 2 of this campaign, and my colleague Edwin Kofisian joins us on the line with details. Edwin, give us details of where John Mahama is now and what are the key issues that are coming up.
Okay, currently we are in Buakwa North, Osiem precisely, where he is at the Savior Church and he's meeting with some party members and some members of the church as well. We just left the Frontier North district, where he also met with some delegates of the party, and he has been asking the party members to vote for him on the May 13th so that he becomes the flag bearer.
Well, from the Eastern region, let me take you to the Ashanti region now. And for years, the region and indeed the middle belt of the country experienced unreliable power supply and low voltage because experts say the power generated in Accra mostly lose its potency by the time it gets to the middle belt. The impact of this on businesses and individuals has been non-discriminatory and brutal. Listen to the Asante Hene Otumfo say to the second.
Debi di onu a obefie wo kwa akodidi ne kanea fon nanim na edum. Azuna po na de na abe no.
Well, there's good news because the Electricity Company of Ghana a while ago entered into an agreement with AXA Energy Company Limited for the construction of a 205 megawatt thermal power plant. My colleague Elton Brobe joins me in studio for more on this. Tell us about this agreement, Elton.
So, if the plant will be located at Angomasi in Kumasi, the capacity of the plant will be 205 megawatts with a regular guaranteed capacity of 175 megawatts. The plant will run on natural gas and the responsibility of the fuel supply shall lie with AXA. The project is expected to reach commercial operations in the fourth quarter of 2024. Now, the PPA structure is a take and pay with a 40% guarantee dispatch. There will be no buyer guarantee and no government guarantees. Key among the many benefits of the AXA agreement are enhanced power generation capacity and voltage stability for customers in the middle belt of Ghana and for export, and highly competitive commercial terms and price, which will reduce the indebtedness of the energy sector because ECJ is relieved of bank guarantees and fuel purchases.
Thank you very much, Elton, for details of that agreement. And to ensure smooth operations of the plant and other transmission lines, the Ghana Grid Company Limited, GRIDCO, has already started demolition structures that will obstruct power supply. Energy Minister Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh says the exercise is necessary to ensure a reliable power supply.
Everybody got to know that don't construct structures near high tension cables and things, because it can have an effect on the whole public good that we are enjoying. The people who will then shout, look at what a badly sited mast has done to the whole people of Kumasi and Ashanti. People would admit that Kumasi had improved tremendously just by energizing where we are. Kumasi had improved. So for those of us who are in charge, we will continue to give the support to ECG and GRIDCO to ensure that whatever necessary is done.
Energy Minister Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh will stay a little longer on energy-related matters because the Northern Electricity Company is beginning a revenue mobilization and disconnection exercise in its catchment area. The exercise, which will start on 18th April, will cover all customers in arrears, including state-owned enterprises, ministries, departments and agencies, as well as MMDAs. According to a statement issued by management, special security arrangements will be put in place to arrest and prosecute anyone who interferes with the exercise. Well, Joy is also learning this afternoon of shortage of fuel, especially petrol in some stations across the country. It is unclear the reason behind the shortage, but Executive Director of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Duncan Amwa, blamed the mode of implementation of the gold for oil policy for the likely shortage of some oil fuel stations.
I can confirm that there's been some light supply disruptions with oil. Personally, I did a few of their outlets just yesterday, and it was difficult to get fuel. We have to probe and ask a few questions what probably could be accounting for, on the back of the fact that we had earlier made a prediction that the second window for April is likely to see fuel prices go up. We were thinking that it was simply the issue of hoarding, where dealers were not willing to put products at the forecourt because they anticipate a price adjustment upwards. But when we checked, it was just simply because they were not able to get the sort of product that they do supply on a regular.
Well, my colleague James Aveji has been out and about. He's joined me in studio. James, bring us up to speed on which areas you visited and what was the situation.
So we went to the Malam Odoko stretch of the highway. We checked on some 4 fuel stations. All 4 of them have super shortages. 2 of them have diesel and others do not have diesel at all.
Okay, and what did they say was the reason why they were out of stock?
The attendants, although they wouldn't speak to us on camera, indicated that they do not know the main reason for the shortage.
And GOL has a statement in particular. What does it say?
Yes, GOL in that statement says it acknowledges shortage of its Super XP Run 95 at some of its stations. The shortages, according to GOL, started during the Easter holidays because of operational challenges occasioned by supply disruptions. Now, GOIL has meanwhile taken delivery of enough product and has just yesterday taken adequate steps to dispatch over 2 million liters to their fuel stations experiencing the shortages. Now, additionally, GOIL intends to release more stocks to the affected stations in the next 2 days to augment supplies at the station as they apologize to their customers for any inconveniences caused.
Thank you very much, James. This is the Midday News and is proudly sponsored by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol is always a delightful experience. Duraplast Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplast goes, water flows. We'll take a quick break. When we return, we have sports. We'll put climate in focus and also ask why men are committing more suicide in Ghana.
When a man is facing crisis, it's assumed by the community that you don't need to cry. We don't really create an outlet that will let the emotions get an exit. And when there's a built-up tension in you, these are the things that contribute to a lot of suicide ideations.
Imagine say water wake up at dawn, bath, chop, where it vanish for your area for 2 weeks. You not get one drop safe inside your tank.
Hey.
Haja, our life was in dangerous. Only our neighbor get water with water tank.
Water tank?
Yes, water tank. Mamma mia, that water tank get meter for checking water level. That water tank be fine past Kumasi Selenium. That water tank be tough like Ghana Army. That water tank, they carry water pepe, so say some no go left inside the supply tank. What a tank! As my boss, Mr. Poncho, go talk.
Beautiful, durable, with water level indicator and accurate volume of water. Water tank. What a tank! By Duraplast.
Thanks for sticking with us. Let's do sports, Mishael.
Hello. The Africa Zone 3 Under-17 and Under-19 Handball Championship kicked off in Accra yesterday with Ghana and Nigeria recording heavy victories in their opening games. Nigeria's Under-19s beat Liberia 61-16, while the Liberians succumbed to a 72-5 loss to Ghana. Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, Benin and Niger are the other countries competing in the 5-day tournament. And president of the Ghana Handball Federation, Neil Anti-Bannerman, foresees a spike in the country's level of technical direction after the championship.
You could tell that all the teams were very prepared for the tournament. And we are particularly happy because organizing a tournament like this gives you the opportunity to grow all aspects of your game, from officiating, coaching, and then even the players. Because the coaches who are not even participating in the games get to see other coaches doing what they have to do, and they learn from them, just like the officiating officials who also observe their colleagues officiating and referees doing the same. So it gives even spectators, journalists, and all other people to learn the rules and regulations of the game.
Before I take leave of you, a Ghanaian has been selected as 8th overall of the WNBA drafts. The WNBA is the women's franchise of the NBA, and Letitia Amehia will be the first Ghanaian to feature in the WNBA after being picked by the Atlanta Dreams 2 days ago. Okay. And finally, tonight on Joy UCL, Chelsea take on Real Madrid in the first leg of the Champions League quarter-final tie. Build-up is at 6:50 p.m. with kickoff at 7 p.m. right on this dial.
Thank you very much, Mishael. And let's focus on climate. And as climate change impacts countries around the world, scientists in Ghana are hard at work establishing how much the country is contributing to the crisis. In the Bia Tanot Forest Reserve in the Ahafo region, climate scientists have installed Ghana's first instrument for measuring carbon flux dynamics. Joy News climate correspondent Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin has been speaking to officials on the project.
The activity of the Bia Tano forestation is expected to shed light on carbon cycling and more generally on the ecological feedback of tropical forests with respect to climate change.
Currently, the lead scientist working on the carbon flux monitoring project that is under the Earth Observation Research Innovation Center.
Dr. Caleb Mensah is with the Department of Atmospheric and Climate Sciences and a researcher with the Earth Observation Research and Innovation Center at the University of Energy and Natural Resources.
We know that trees, through photosynthesis, are able to absorb a lot of this carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and these carbon dioxide are part of these greenhouse gases that have a lot of this warming effects that we have been experiencing now.
He says the 80 covariance sensors installed on the 56-meter tower are critical to understanding how much carbon the forest captures both seasonally and annually.
And to enable us improve upon our data, that's when it comes to the efficiency of these trees to really sequester carbon dioxide. If we are able to understand how well they are really able to sequester carbon, then when we go for green planting, at least we know the kind of trees that are able to really sequester a lot of this carbon. Then we can know how well to plant most of these trees and how to even protect these trees from them going to extinction.
That's our climate focus. And community psychiatrist at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Francis Yeboah, has revealed that out of the 1,500 suicide cases reported annually in Ghana, more than 60% is committed by men. Listen to him speak on Joy Prime.
I think men are twice the number of females that commit suicide every year. We assume men are supposed to behave in a certain way in our life. So when a man is facing crisis in life, you know, in the journey of life, a lot of things comes together. And emotions has nothing to do whether you are a female or you are a male. So when a man is facing crisis, when he assume or is assumed by the community that you don't need to cry, you need to be hard on yourself. So when a man is trying to exhibit his emotions, you will hear other men saying that, are you not a man? So some of these things makes us, you know, keep the emotions within us.
Now, despite his battle with leprosy, a chronic and infectious disease, he nurtured a passion for singing and performance. Hear the story of Opia Mensah.
Opia Mensah, a singing sensation living with leprosy. Born in 1942, he has more than 100 songs to his collection.
God gave me talent to small, so I'm a small boy and singing. That I'm no sick. Age I don't remember, but I started for 1973. I start music.
He produces unique music in which he occasionally whistles. His songs are inspired by his life stories and events close to him.
Mary Pop.
Oh, and that's how we end today's edition of the Midday News on Joy 99.7 FM, also on Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi. On myjoyonline.com, stories like NPP petitioning police to arrest Mahama Asiedun Ketia over treasonable and incendiary comments. You can read more there. And we have Living Word with Pastor Mensah Otabil up next. I am